Elon Musk's childhood in Pretoria, during the 1970s, was shaped by isolation, curiosity, and an intense inner world that set him apart from nearly everyone around him. Pretoria at that time was a quiet, conservative city, structured by rules, routine, and the rigid social atmosphere of apartheid-era South Africa. It was not a place that encouraged wild imagination or radical thinking. Yet inside one young boy's mind, ideas were constantly forming and expanding beyond the limits of his surroundings. From an early age, Elon showed signs of deep mental focus. He could sit silently for long stretches of time, staring into space, completely absorbed in his thoughts. Adults often mistook this behavior for inattentiveness or rudeness, but in reality, his mind was working at a level far beyond what most people expected from a child. His mother, May Musk, noticed that Elon had the ability to disconnect from the world around him and enter a state of intense concentration. When spoken to, he sometimes did not respond at all, not because he was ignoring others, but because he was mentally elsewhere. This tendency worried some adults. Teachers occasionally suspected hearing problems or social difficulties. In truth, Elon simply had a mind of his own. He processed information internally and deeply, preferring to think things through rather than respond quickly. He did not enjoy small talk, and he had little patience for conversations that lacked meaning or intellectual substance. This inward focus would later become one of his defining traits as an innovator and problem solver. Elon's family environment was complex. His parents' relationship was strained, and the household often felt tense rather than nurturing. His father, Elon Musk, was intelligent and technically skilled, but also harsh and emotionally difficult. Elon was frequently criticized rather than encouraged, which pushed him further inward. Instead of seeking approval from adults, he learned to rely on himself and his own judgment. This self-reliance became a core part of his personality. Books became his escape and his education. Elon read constantly, far beyond what was expected for his age. He devoured encyclopedias, sometimes reading entire volumes simply to understand how the world worked. He read science fiction obsessively, especially stories about space travel, futuristic societies, and heroic engineers who solved impossible problems. Authors like Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein shaped his thinking, not just by entertaining him, but by presenting visions of humanity expanding beyond Earth and overcoming existential threats. These stories gave Elon a sense of purpose. They suggested that intelligence and technology could be used to improve civilization, protect humanity, and push it toward a greater future. Unlike many children who read fiction purely for fun, Elon treated these books almost like instruction manuals for how the world could be redesigned. He began to internalize the idea that progress depended on individuals who were willing to challenge accepted limits. Pretoria's schools did not nurture this mindset. The education system emphasized conformity and obedience rather than creativity. Elon found school intellectually unstimulating and socially painful. He struggled to connect with other children, who often viewed him as strange. His intelligence, awkwardness, and lack of interest in typical childhood activities made him an easy target for bullies. The bullying was relentless and at times brutal. Elon was mocked, excluded, and physically attacked. He did not know how to defend himself socially, and he had little interest in trying to fit in. Instead of fighting back, he withdrew even further into his inner world. This withdrawal was not a sign of weakness, but a coping mechanism that allowed him to survive an environment that felt hostile and unsafe. One particularly violent incident left a lasting mark on him. After being chased and assaulted by other boys, he was pushed down a flight of stairs and severely injured, requiring hospitalization. The physical pain eventually healed, but the emotional lesson stayed with him. He learned that the world could be cruel and that vulnerability invited attack. From that point on, he became more guarded, more emotionally distant, and more resilient. Rather than becoming bitter or broken, Elon responded by sharpening his mind. He turned adversity into fuel for self-improvement. He stopped expecting kindness from others and instead focused on building competence and knowledge. This mindset helped him develop an unusually high tolerance for stress and discomfort, something that would later allow him to endure extreme pressure as an entrepreneur. Technology soon became another refuge. When Elon gained access to a computer, it immediately captured his attention. Computers made sense to him in a way people often did not. They followed logical rules, responded predictably, and rewarded careful thinking. He taught himself programming with remarkable speed, reading manuals and experimenting endlessly. Coding gave him a sense of control and creativity that he lacked in other areas of life. Through programming, Elon discovered that he could build entire worlds from nothing but logic and imagination. Writing code felt empowering. It was a way to impose order on complexity and to transform abstract ideas into functioning systems. This experience reinforced his belief that individuals with the right skills could shape reality itself. During this period, Elon also developed his habit of questioning assumptions. He did not accept rules simply because they existed. Whether it was social norms, academic conventions, or technical limitations, he wanted to understand the underlying reason behind everything. If a rule did not make sense, he felt no obligation to follow it. This independent thinking often caused friction with authority figures, but it also laid the groundwork for his later breakthroughs. Pretoria in the 1970s was a place marked by political tension and moral contradictions. Although Elon was not deeply engaged with politics as a child, he was aware that the society around him was divided and unjust. This awareness contributed to his sense that existing systems were flawed and that progress required fundamental change. Rather than accepting the world as it was, he instinctively imagined how it could be redesigned. Despite the challenges he faced, Elon was not unhappy in a conventional sense. His inner life was rich and absorbing. He found joy in solving problems, learning new concepts, and imagining futures that extended far beyond his immediate surroundings. While other children focused on sports or social status, Elon focused on ideas. This inward focus came at a cost. He struggled with emotional expression and empathy in traditional ways. He often appeared cold or detached, even to those close to him. But beneath this exterior was an intense drive to understand and improve the human condition, even if he did not always know how to express it emotionally. By the end of his childhood in Pretoria, it was clear that Elon Musk was not destined for an ordinary path. He had developed a unique combination of traits: extreme focus, intellectual independence, emotional resilience, and a willingness to question everything. These traits were forged not through comfort or encouragement, but through isolation, difficulty, and self-directed learning. This chapter shows that Elon Musk's mind was shaped long before his famous companies existed. The foundations of his later achievements were built in quiet rooms filled with books, in lonely schoolyards, and in long hours spent thinking about how the world works and how it might be improved. Pretoria in the 1970s did not create a visionary by design, but it provided the conditions that forced one young boy to turn inward, think deeply, and develop a mind that belonged entirely to himself.